In 2024, I caught a lot of bass, but one thing I feel like I didn't do was explore enough into kind of niche or hardly fished lures that I feel like could have caught me a few more fish throughout the year and maybe some giants. So in 2025, I'm making the promise to you guys to fish 4 different categories of lures, some of which I haven't hardly used at all, and some of which I haven't used in a while, that I think will help me catch more big bass and help you guys become better anglers. My name's Tyler. What are these lures? Let's talk about it.
Another giant, another giant. Look at that, y'all.
I can't believe what I just caught.
Yes!
Well, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to TRF. Today's episode is sponsored by the Bass Forecast mobile app. More on them and what they do and how they can help you become better anglers later on in the video. As I sit here at the end of 2024, it's like the last week of December when I'm filming this video, I look back at the year and I made a whole bunch of awesome videos. I caught a bunch of bass at a lot of new places. So I bank fished more than I ever had. The 100 ponds and now 200 pond series took off. It's an awesome thing I love doing. And then my kayak videos, I've kind of fallen back into love with kayak fishing. And so I fished a lot of new scenarios, but really a lot of the same old lures, vibrating jigs, drop shots, topwater frogs. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna throw those in 2025 because I will. They're super effective. They help me do my job, which is getting fish on camera. But I wanna fish a few different categories of lures that I think are gonna help me catch more fish and hopefully maybe ignite a passion for you. If you have not found your favorite bass fishing lure, maybe it's on the table today. So let's jump into lure category number 1 for 2025. Which one am I gonna throw more of? And that is swim baits. Now, the type of swim baits I am not talking about are these small pre-rigged swim bait I just dropped a video of here on the channel, the 2 to 4 inch little pre-rigged ones, and not the ones that you throw on a jig head. So like the Outcast Tackle GoldenEye swim bait head with a Rage swimmer or a swim and shiner. I'm not saying those small swim baits. Are they still swim baits? Absolutely. The category is massive and they catch fish all over the place. I'm talking about swim baits. The all caps swim bait, the ones that you throw and you feel uncomfortable because it's not gonna get me many bites. And you also feel uncomfortable because they're really dang expensive, or they can be. This crank down swim bait here, I believe, is like $120. If a bass is gonna take a swipe at one of these lures, it usually has to be a larger than average size bass. Now, I've caught 1 pounders on all 3 of these swim baits, but not very often. More than likely, I'm going out there with the kind of goal of just getting bigger than average bites because these things tend to get larger than average size fish to bite them. And so in throwing these baits here, you are limiting the potential bites you could be getting. But honestly, that's kind of the entire point with throwing swim baits. You want your casting, your retrieving, your technique, your gear, your rod, reel, line to actually matter. That's kind of what makes swim bait fishing super niche and honestly hard to break into as an angler because it's daunting, it's scary, some of the stuff's expensive, but that's the entire point. It's supposed to not be easy to do, but when it all comes together and you catch that giant fish, that was the difference right there between going home skunked day after day after day and catching a giant fish like a 10-pound bass. That is the allure to the swim baits, and I want to experience a little more of that in 2025. Now, one of the problems with committing to throwing a swim bait more in this next calendar year is that the days that I throw it, the hours, the time that I spend doing this, I'm not gonna get as many bites. Now, the size fish I catch hopefully is bigger, that's the whole point, but as a YouTuber, my job is either to sit here on camera or be on the water actually showing you guys how lures work and getting fish catches on camera. That's my full-time job. I'm so blessed to have this job. But it doesn't mean that I can go out there every day and spend an entire week throwing nothing but swim baits, because unless I catch some giant fish that can kind of make for an awesome video, that is a pretty wasted week that I could have spent making the 3 to 4 YouTube videos and TikToks and Instagram and Facebook, all the stuff I have to do. Swim baits and the lack of productivity in terms of fish catching that comes along with them makes my job a little more stressful. So I'm not saying I'm gonna become a swim baiter and I'm gonna throw nothing but these and I'm gonna get all the Japanese products out there shipped to my doorstep, because A, that's not attainable for many of you guys as viewers. You don't wanna become swim baiters, so I'm not gonna do this all the time. But again, I want to experience a little bit of the swim bait side of things, and especially when it comes to the pre-rig swim bait with a line through or 2024. This one here being the G-Flag 150. It is a bluegill or a shad size swim bait with a trailer hook on the bottom. I'm gonna be throwing these along with the Strike King Final Copy, the Mag Draft, a whole bunch of different pre-rigged swim baits, and of course, glide baits like the Piz Customs, all that kind of stuff. I just wanna have some dang fun, and even if that means that I waste a day or two combined throughout the year, maybe more, as long as I fill that space with 1 or 2 giant bass that I wasn't gonna catch otherwise, I'm fine with that. Now, as always, the exact lures I talk about in this video will be linked down in the video description. Those are affiliate tackle links. So if you're gonna buy tackle on Tackle Warehouse, please consider using those links. Now, not everything in this video is an actual lure. Some of them that I'm gonna throw in 2025 are riggings, soft plastic riggings. The first of which being one that I've dabbled with a little bit, but I wanna fish a whole lot more, and I have the components for it right here. That is the free rig. Now, I just realized I don't actually have a free rig tied up, so I'm going to rig one as we talk about why the free rig is fantastic and why I need to throw it more this year. Now, the only video I made about the free rig, or at least centered mostly on it in 2024, got, I believe at this point, 76,000 views. So obviously the interest in this lure category is there. I just didn't fish it nearly enough because I didn't feel like it was a high percentage lure. But the more that I thought about it this off season, or I guess off season, this non-fishing season, AKA the fall, I really think it actually is pretty high percentage. I just didn't give it a shot. But if you still have no idea what I'm talking about, Tyler, what is the free rig? It consists of 3 main things: a weight, a bait, and a hook. Now this here, I don't even know if y'all can see that. It's the smallest, oh dang it, focus on my hand. It is the smallest free rig package I ever fish. It is the 40 size, I believe it is. G-Crack Emo Kamushi, 40 millimeters. It is a size 2 VMC finesse Neko hook. And what is this, Daichi? No, decoy, 3.5 gram decoy free rig weight. It actually has a little insert inside the weight. This is one of my favorite little free rig setups. I'm gonna fish it a whole lot more in 25. So what you do is you thread on your weight. Next, tie on your hook, just like you would a Texas rig, and then put on your favorite soft plastic here. I'm actually threading, don't know if y'all can see that, threading this soft plastic all the way onto this hook. Makes it have a very good hookup ratio, but is not really weedless at all. And just like that, you have yourself a rigged free rig. Now, Tyler, if you have a free sliding weight above a Texas rig, or however you wanna rig it, soft plastic, how is that not just a standard unpegged Texas rig? Well, because generally the free rig weight has its center of gravity low, so it's a teardrop shape. That way when it actually falls, it sinks faster in the water, and the best free rig weight systems I know have some kind of insert that way, or a bigger eye, that way the weight can actually fall down the line easier. So when you pull it up off the bottom, that weight sinks down, therefore making it kind of like a drop shot, but it's inverted, and then your soft plastic falls weightless to the bottom. You pull up your string, what is this, 1920? Pull your bait off the bottom, let it sink down, and the weight falls first because the weight is fastest, and then the bait falls after that. That's why it's called the free rig. Now, I think it's best, not, as a matter of fact, not I think, it's designed to be thrown on either flatter soft plastics, like I think the, what's it called? The Bull Flat is the one that was designed to be used with, or most people in Japan use it. Another one is the G-Crack Bellows Gill, a fantastic flat-sided soft plastic, but I don't really use either one of those. Most of the time, I'm going extra finesse on my free rigs, and so I've got the Emo Kamushi, crazy Japanese lure in the 40 millimeter size, and this here is actually a Elastec style soft plastic. If I want a free rig with a worm, my favorite floating worm is the Strike King Super Finesse worm. It is a 4-inch little worm. Y'all have seen it on the channel recently for drop shots. Again, Elastec material. If it sinks, it's hardly at all. I mean, this thing is suspending in the water, which makes the free rig the perfect rig for it, because if this worm is here and the weight is here, I pull it up, the weight falls, and the worm very slowly sinks or suspends in the water column, making this thing a fantastic presentation that I'm not saying an unpegged Texas rig couldn't do, but the way that free rig weights are designed and the whole system is built makes it a little bit different in practice than an unpegged Texas rig. So in 2025, how am I planning on utilizing the free rig in my fishing? So especially pond and kayak fishing, if I'm fishing in less than 10 feet of water, I think a small finesse free rig setup like this can definitely catch me a few fish, maybe in the place of a drop shot. Maybe I take a drop shot and a shaky head and a free rig and I test them all in the pond, great video idea. But I also plan on getting a few heavier free rig weights and bigger, flatter, soft plastics, and really trying this out for deeper summertime bass, because maybe in place of a drop shot or a football jig or something kind of offshore focused, a free rig could get me a few extra bites. Now, before we get to our third lure, I've got to thank the sponsor of today's video and a huge partner on this channel, and that is the Bass Forecast mobile app. The Bass Forecast mobile app is a fishing platform built around an algorithm that is tailored just for the life cycle of a bass. It uses live weather data to show you in real time and predict in the future how bass should be behaving on a Bass Forecast rating scale of 1 to 10. Now, of course, the rating could change over time as the weather changes, because the weatherman, as we all know, is not always totally accurate. But we at Bass Forecast, I say we, as I'm actually a partial owner in this company, understand lots of apps can recommend baits to throw and locations to go and what techniques to use, but we actually help you plan which days to go fishing in the future if you don't have unlimited time to fish. And thanks to the accuracy of the algorithm, we can recommend exactly what lures to throw for the season you are in, the retrieve speed that should be working on that day, and the actual locations you may find those bass, along with detailed instructional videos made by yours truly teaching you how to fish every single lure category for bass. If you want to catch more fish in 2025, download Bass Forecast. I will have the link down in the video description and pinned to the top of the comment section. The premium version gets you all the features for $20 a year, and by downloading it using the link below, you get a $20 Tackle Warehouse gift card, making it pretty much free. One of the biggest ways y'all can help support this channel is supporting the companies that support me. It's all a big circle of support, and I appreciate you guys. So now that we've done swim baits, we've done the free rig, category number 3, that's also not a lure, it is a rigging, and I've got the components right here. That is the Neko rig. And whether it's pronounced Neko rig or Neko rig, whatever it is, I know that I recently fell in love with this bait this fall, and I've seen it work really good on the professional circuit, specifically my best friend Alton Jones Jr., who I've traveled the country with filming. I have seen him utilize the Neko rig to his advantage to win probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be honest, on this exact bait right here. And I'm gonna explain why you should be throwing it. But before we do that, I gotta open this package of weights. Holy cow. So let's get this thing rigged. So we have 3 components. You have a standard wacky hook. I have one that has a weedless little plastic, whether monofilament, fluorocarbon, whatever it is, guard on here. It's the VMC Wacky Weedless. I've got a Strike King Fat Baby Finesse Worm. Any finesse worm or a Senko style worm, stick bait will work for this. And then I have a nail weight. So the way that I do this is I take the nail weight, you shove it in the nose of the bait. Now I'm gonna be actually having a masterclass video on the Neko rig, talking about all the different styles of weights, the push weights, the screw weights, all the different ways you can rig a Neko rig. But for the most part, this is the layman's way of doing it. You shove the weight all the way in the head of your worm. That way, if you hold it in the center, it's way heavier here on this side. Then you take yourself a hook, and yes, the Neko rig is supposed to be rigged with the hook, point facing towards the bottom, or the shank facing towards the bottom of the worm. But if you just want to have a simple Neko rig, find yourself a little bit less than half of the way towards the weighted side of the worm, hook it through like a wacky rig, and that's a simple Neko rig. Now, like I said, I'm gonna go way deeper into all the intricacies of the Neko rig in that video coming in the spring, but for now, all you gotta know, that's kind of what it looks like, and that's kind of how you rig it. Now, the number one thing I'll say, if you're gonna pick up a Neko rig this winter into this spring, is that you don't need a heavy weight. This here is a, 16th ounce? A 16th ounce weight, and honestly, that's probably the heaviest I'd go. Maybe an 1/8 ounce, but definitely not a quarter, definitely not any bigger than a quarter. It's just because you don't need it. The Neko rig, at least to me, is presenting a wacky rig style of look, but instead of fishing it around shallow water, you are fishing it in deeper water, and so therefore you need a little bit of weight to get it down there. But with how slim and slender this worm is, you don't need all that much weight at all, and especially if you're trying to fish it in like 10 to 12 feet, a 1/32 ounce weight is gonna be just good enough, but I'd say 32nd to a 16th is kind of a good weight range to stay in. You don't need to be buying 1/2 ounce weights to stick in the nose of your worm. It's overkill and probably counterproductive. Now, where am I gonna be throwing the Neko rig? I would say it's not gonna be like a #1 lure to throw. I'm gonna throw a drop shot or a jig in those deeper water scenarios, but it should always, for me, be a cleanup style lure. So if I get bites on a jig or bites on a drop shot or a Ned rig, and then all of a sudden the bites just kind of stop coming and I know there's probably still fish in that area, a Neko rig is a good one to throw there. Now, maybe I'm ignorant in saying that I'm not gonna throw it first, because heck, I might. I'm making this video telling you guys I wanna throw these lures more next year, so maybe I should commit to doing it, but I just think I have so much more confidence in a drop shot and a jig, and so I'm gonna gain confidence in this thing by working it more as a cleanup lure as opposed to something that I throw for the first time at a location or a spot. Now, I say that it's gonna be cleanup. If I fish around deeper boat docks this winter, I'm probably gonna have a jig tied up that I always skip in there first because a jig gets a bigger average bite to me. But I think I've probably missed out on catching deeper, clear water, dock dwelling bass, maybe on a sunny winter day where bass might be underneath dock floats. A jig skipped under there, even in relatively shallow docks, so like 5, 6, 7 foot deep docks. I think a Neko rig that falls, I'm talking again, 32nd, 64th ounce weight, super small, that just goes a little bit faster than a wacky rig does, a standard wacky rig, to get myself a little more efficiency on the water. I think that could catch me bass, maybe with a jig as a 1-2 punch on those deeper docks. But if I find a day when they are not eating a jig and my second skip in there with a Neko rig, one eats it on the fall, I pretty much know they're not gonna be on the bottom that day. They're gonna be in the column, suspended on the dock post. And that is where the Neko rig is going to excel over a jig and even over a wacky rig, over a Ned rig for sure in those situations. So again, if I find docks that are deeper, in clear water and it's cold, very niche, I'm gonna throw this thing first. Now, lastly, I wanna fish more in 2025 with an entire category of lure, not just one specific type, one specific size. I'm talking about the entire category of crankbaits. Somehow in 2024, despite my love for the Hybrid Hunter and the 6XD, two very different crankbaits, I think if I look back at the, 118 videos I made on YouTube this year, these two lures accounted for maybe like 8 fish the entire year. I did not have a good year at fishing crankbaits. Part of that was due to fishing more ponds than ever before, and ponds are not the best for crankbaits because of all the snodgrass. Really, treble hooked baits in the column at all are not the best for fishing around ponds. Now, I'm gonna try to kind of break that cycle and fish them maybe deeper. I've got some ideas. But to me, it is absolutely tragic I did not fish more with crankbaits across the board, and so in 2025, I'm gonna be fishing with 3 main ones. I'm making the commitment to fish more with shallow diving, flat-sided baits around rock in the winter and the pre-spawn. Then around the pre-spawn and winter in grass, I'm gonna fish with the Hybrid Hunter a lot more. And when it comes to summertime fishing, I'm gonna really make an effort to get out there in the kayak and in the bass boat to fish in May and June to show y'all exactly why the deep diving crankbait can be such an awesome lure for you guys who fish in bigger bodies of water. So starting with the shallow diving lure category, I've got the Strike King Chick Magnet Jr. here, and I've got the, I believe it's the Rapala Ott's Garage Slim, my good buddy Ott Defoe on tour. He has designed this lure. This one here is made of balsa wood. It is very, very fast floating, and this one here is not made of balsa, but it's also fast floating. And I'm probably gonna dive a little bit into the kind of slow floating or totally suspending shallow diving crankbaits. I believe Strike King has one coming out called the Hardliner. I don't have my hands on one yet, but it looks very similar to a cross between these two. But from what I understand, this lure category here catches the snot out of some rock-dwelling shallow bass, so riprap on the dam or on bridges, shale rock, 45-degree bluffs, that kind of thing can be fantastic for these style crankbaits. And I feel like with the invention of forward-facing sonar, during the winter and early spring, I'm usually off the bank if I'm in the bass boat, shaking a minnow or throwing a drop shot around or an Alabama rig. When there are bass to be caught, especially in super sunny days and I know it sounds weird, the nastiest, rainiest, windiest days on shallow rock with this style crankbait. And I know it's a very short season, and by the time you're watching this, I'm probably already throwing this lure right here, and maybe I've already caught a few. So I don't have long to throw at this style of bait category, but I definitely want to make an effort in the 2 to 3 months that I do have to throw it to hopefully catch myself a few bass on it. Now, one lure that I know I have plenty of opportunity to fish with is the Hybrid Hunter. This here is an L-shaped step-down bill crankbait. It is fantastic around shallow grass. I know you're saying, Tyler, a crankbait around grass? No thank you. Well, this thing is designed to specifically rip and tear out of grass. It works fantastic around that, and I just didn't fish a whole lot in the pre-spawn, to be honest. I think my tour schedule this year really made it tough to actually get out there, but this thing doesn't just work around grass, it also works around rock too, and so maybe a day that the fish are super aggressive and they want something louder, the one knocker beads in the Hybrid Hunter might do better than the higher pitched beads in these shallow diving flat-sided crankbaits, and the action is totally different. The flat sides go like this, the Hybrid Hunter goes like this. And moving into the post-spawn, the Hybrid Hunter, especially in bluegill and shad colors, can be fantastic in and around rock and grass. I'm definitely gonna throw that crankbait style a lot more. Now, honorable mention before we get to the deep diving cranks, the lipless crankbait can work really well. I'm gonna throw it in ponds for sure because I can actually variably retrieve this thing in the water column, whether it's super shallow or super deep, but I've just never been a huge fan of the trap, and so I'm not gonna throw that a whole lot, or not gonna commit to throwing that a whole lot more. It could end up happening. But the one that I do wanna fish is the deep diving crankbait. I've had some awesome days catching giant bass in this thing, especially in East Texas in the summertime. It can also be a wintertime bait. I just don't know really where to throw it much in the wintertime. I don't have that many offshore spots. Most of my time is spent kayak fishing, bank fishing, or beating the bank in my bass boat. So if I can find some deeper offshore stuff to fish this thing in the winter, I will. But for the most part, in the summer, I get in the bass boat, I get to using side scan and finding schools of fish, absolutely slinging this thing out there and catching bass. I just didn't do a whole lot of that in 2024, and I wanna change that in 25.
Ouch, ouch, gosh.
So swim baits, the free rig, the Neko rig, and crankbaits. 4 categories of lures that I'm gonna be throwing a whole lot more in 2025. I'm making the promise. Last year I made the promise about 2024, and I didn't really come through on most of that. I think these here are ones that I can teach you guys more about as I fish them, and I know these all catch big bass because I've done it before. Now, make sure y'all download the Bass Forecast app if you haven't before. They also have a free version, so it's at least downloading to check it out. I will leave my free rig masterclass video showing you guys everything you need to know about the free rig up here in the corner. It is a clickable link. As always, my tackle is linked down below. My name's Tyler. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for an awesome 2024, and let's catch some big ol' bass in these in 2025. See you next time.